My beloved child, before you dismiss this message as just another story, stay with me for a moment. What you are about to hear begins with a conversation that was never supposed to leave the walls of a quiet home. Your soulmate finally gathered the courage to speak honestly with their mother about you. Every word carried hope, every memory carried emotion, and every heartbeat expected understanding. But then, everything changed in an instant. The room fell silent before a single sentence shattered every expectation. She looked directly into your soulmate's eyes and shouted, "You are hiding the biggest truth from yourself." Those words echoed through the room, leaving your soulmate completely frozen. They weren't expecting anger, they were expecting comfort. Instead, they received a reaction so unexpected that even they began questioning everything they believed. As this unfolds, clarity will come, because what happened next made your soulmate realize this story was never as simple as they once imagined. Your soulmate couldn't stop asking why those words were spoken with such certainty. Their mother wasn't speaking out of hatred. She wasn't trying to push anyone away. She was reacting to something she had quietly noticed long before anyone else did. She had watched the changes, the sleepless nights, the moments when your name was mentioned and an unexplainable emotion filled the room. Then she calmly revealed something that caught your soulmate completely off guard. She said, "Every time you speak about this person, your eyes become different. You're no longer running from your feelings, you're running from your fear of what those feelings might change." Those words landed harder than anyone expected. Stay with me for a moment, because this may resonate as we continue. The silence that followed became louder than any argument ever could. Your soulmate sat there without speaking. Memories they had buried suddenly returned one after another. Small moments that once seemed meaningless now felt connected, almost as if invisible pieces of a puzzle had finally started fitting together. Their mother continued gently, explaining that sometimes people spend so much time searching for signs outside themselves that they ignore the answers already living within their own heart. That realization struck deeply. For the first time, your soulmate admitted they had been pretending to be strong while secretly fearing rejection, misunderstanding, and the possibility of losing something that had never truly left their heart. The conversation was no longer about the past. It had become a mirror reflecting truths neither of them had been ready to face until now. Then something even more unexpected happened. Their mother walked toward an old drawer, opened it slowly, and pulled out something your soulmate had completely forgotten existed. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't mysterious. Yet the moment they saw it, every emotion they had been trying to hide came rushing back. A forgotten memory suddenly became impossible to ignore. Their breathing changed. Their hands began trembling ever so slightly. They whispered, "How did you still keep this?" Their mother smiled quietly and replied, "Because some things are too important to throw away, even when people convince themselves they've moved on. Something huge is waiting for you, because what that forgotten item revealed would completely change the direction of this story in ways your soulmate never saw coming." As your soulmate held that forgotten reminder, they finally understood why today's conversation had unfolded exactly the way it did. It wasn't about blame. It wasn't about choosing sides. It was about uncovering a truth that had been patiently waiting beneath years of doubt. They walked away from that conversation carrying a different heart than the one they had walked in with. Questions still remained, but so did a new sense of courage. And just when they believed they had uncovered the biggest revelation of the day, another unexpected discovery appeared, one that connected directly to you and promised to reveal why this journey was only beginning. The next chapter begins with a message your soulmate never expected to receive, and it changes everything. A single question lingered in your soulmate's mind long after they left that conversation. If my mother saw this so clearly, what have I been refusing to see? They couldn't shake that feeling. Every step home felt heavier, yet strangely hopeful. Stay with me for a moment, because the next few moments changed the way they looked at everything connected to you. Later that evening, while sorting through old belongings, they discovered a small notebook they hadn't opened in years. Inside were thoughts they had written during moments of uncertainty. To their surprise, your name appeared again and again. Not because they were trying to hold on, but because every important decision somehow led back to the same person. As this unfolds, clarity will come. They realized their heart had been speaking long before their mind was willing to listen. The more they read, the more one memory refused to stay buried. It wasn't a dramatic moment or a grand event. It was something incredibly simple, a conversation, a smile, a promise that seemed ordinary at the time but now carried an entirely different meaning. Suddenly, their mother's words echoed once more, "You're not hiding your feelings from others, you're hiding them from yourself." That sentence finally made sense. This may resonate as we continue, because many truths don't arrive with noise, they arrive quietly, waiting until we're finally ready to hear them. Your soulmate understood that they had spent too much time searching for certainty while ignoring the quiet signs that had been surrounding them all along. If this story is keeping you wondering what happens next, take a moment to share this video with someone who believes that timing has a way of revealing hidden truths. And if you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because the biggest revelation is still ahead. What happened after this wasn't something your soulmate could have prepared for. Just as they closed the notebook, their phone lit up with a message from someone they hadn't spoken to in a very long time. The message contained only a few words, but those words instantly connected to everything their mother had said earlier that day. They stared at the screen without replying. The sender knew something they had never shared with anyone else. Their heartbeat quickened as they reread the message again and again, searching for answers hidden between the lines. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate was about to discover that this unexpected message wasn't a coincidence. It was the beginning of another truth that had remained hidden for far too long. And once they opened that conversation, there would be no turning back. Everything changed the moment your soulmate opened that message. They expected a casual greeting, but instead, they found a sentence that made them stop breathing for a second. It read, "There's something your mother never told you, and I think it's finally time you knew." Stay with me for a moment, because from this point forward, every piece of the story began falling into place. Your soulmate hesitated before reading further. Part of them wanted answers, while another part feared that those answers might change everything they believed about their journey with you. As this unfolds, clarity will come, because what they uncovered wasn't about the past alone. It was about understanding why certain moments in life never truly disappear. The message continued with a memory from years ago. It described a conversation that had quietly taken place between family members, one that your soulmate had never been told about. There had been no arguments, no dramatic scenes, only concerns, misunderstandings, and assumptions that slowly grew into distance. The sender explained that your name had come up more than once, not with negativity, but with curiosity. People had wondered why the connection between you seemed impossible to forget, even after so much time had passed. Reading those words, your soulmate realized that many of the fears they carried were built on unanswered questions rather than facts. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the greatest obstacle isn't what happened, it's the story we kept telling ourselves about what happened. As the conversation unfolded, one final detail appeared that completely shifted your soulmate's perspective. The sender revealed that your soulmate's mother had never tried to erase your place in their life. Instead, she had been waiting for the day they would discover the truth on their own, believing that real understanding cannot be forced, it must be experienced. Suddenly, her emotional reaction from earlier made perfect sense. She wasn't shouting because she wanted to separate two hearts. She was trying to wake your soulmate up before another opportunity quietly slipped away. In that instant, regret began turning into determination. For the first time in a long while, your soulmate felt ready to stop questioning every sign and start listening to what their heart had been trying to say all along. Just as they placed the phone down, another unexpected notification appeared. It wasn't from the same person. It was from someone your soulmate never imagined would reach out after all this time. The preview showed only a few words: "I think you deserve to know what really happened. Something huge is waiting for you." Your soulmate took a deep breath, knowing that opening this next message could reveal the one missing piece that had been hidden from everyone, and once that truth came into the light, nothing would ever feel the same again. The notification remained on the screen, but your soulmate couldn't bring themselves to open it immediately. Something deep inside whispered that once they read those words, there would be no returning to the version of the story they had believed for so long. Stay with me for a moment, because this was the moment where fear and truth stood face to face. With a steady breath, they tapped the message. It began with a sentence that instantly changed the atmosphere. "You've spent years blaming yourself for something that was never completely your fault." Those words didn't erase the pain, but they opened a door your soulmate had never realized existed. As this unfolds, clarity will come, because every hidden piece was finally beginning to connect. The sender explained that several misunderstandings had quietly grown over time simply because no one had been willing to ask the difficult questions. Assumptions had replaced conversations, and silence had become louder than honesty. Your soulmate read every line carefully, realizing how many conclusions had been built without the full picture. Then came one unforgettable sentence: "The person you've been searching for never stopped wishing that one day the truth would find its way to you." That single thought stayed with them. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes life doesn't reveal answers when we're impatient. It reveals them when we're finally prepared to understand them. If this story has kept you with us until this moment, share it with someone who believes that the truth always finds its way, no matter how long it takes. And if you don't want to miss the final chapter of this journey, subscribe and stay with us, because the most meaningful revelation is still waiting just ahead. Your soulmate closed their eyes for a moment, feeling a sense of peace they hadn't experienced in a very long time. The fear that once controlled every decision was slowly giving way to hope, and hope was becoming stronger with every passing second. Just as they thought the story had finally reached its conclusion, one final surprise arrived. Their phone rang. The caller's identity made them freeze, not because it was someone unexpected, but because it was the one conversation they had imagined countless times and never believed would actually happen. "Something huge is waiting for you." They answered the call with a quiet, steady voice. And the very first words they heard promised to reveal the final truth that would bring every unanswered question together in the last chapter. The voice on the other end of the call was calm, familiar, and filled with a sincerity your soulmate had not heard in a very long time. For a few seconds, neither person spoke. The silence itself carried years of unanswered questions. Then the caller quietly said, "I've waited a long time for this conversation because I didn't want another day to pass with the truth hidden. Stay with me for a moment, because this was the moment every previous event had been leading toward." Your soulmate realized this wasn't about proving who was right or wrong. It was about finally replacing assumptions with understanding. As this unfolds, clarity will come, and the pieces that once seemed impossible to connect suddenly formed a picture they had never imagined. The caller revealed that many of the moments your soulmate had interpreted as rejection were actually moments of uncertainty. People had stayed quiet, believing silence would protect everyone involved, but instead it had created confusion. Your soulmate remembered their mother's emotional words from the beginning of this journey. "You are hiding the biggest truth from yourself." Only now did they fully understand what she meant. The truth wasn't hidden in someone else's actions, it had been hidden behind their own fear of believing that healing and understanding were still possible. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the greatest discovery is realizing that hope never truly disappeared, it was simply waiting beneath layers of doubt. By the end of the conversation, your soulmate felt lighter than they had in years. The questions that once kept them awake no longer demanded immediate answers. Instead, they carried something far more valuable, a renewed sense of peace, gratitude, and courage. They understood that every conversation, every unexpected message, and every emotional moment had guided them toward this single realization. Meaningful connections are strengthened not by perfect circumstances, but by honesty, patience, and the willingness to understand one another. What once felt like the ending of a story had quietly become the beginning of a wiser chapter. As the call ended, your soulmate looked out the window with a gentle smile. For the first time, they weren't searching for signs or chasing certainty. They had discovered something even more powerful, the confidence to move forward with an open heart. Something huge had indeed been waiting all along, but it wasn't a shocking secret or an impossible twist. It was the truth that genuine understanding can transform fear into hope, confusion into clarity, and distance into the possibility of a new beginning. And with that realization, they knew the next chapter of their journey would no longer be written by doubt, but by the choices they were finally ready to make.